Empowerment Through Knowledge Publishing and Serena Stone present The Tequila Drinker's Guide to Health and Wellness Radio Hour with your host, author and medical Qigong educator, Serena Stone. Featuring the director of the Universal Healing Tao and author of dozens of books on natural health and longevity, Tao Master Mantak Chia. This show is for all of us who work hard and play hard. Those of us who are willing to try new things to improve their life, and those who will not tolerate victimization as an answer to health and wellness issues. And now, the Tequila Drinker's Guide to Health and Wellness, Episode 14. Animal Rights for Everyone, Part 1. Today's show is about the no-kill movement that protects our pets. Once entered into an animal shelter, many pets are destroyed simply because the shelter has not yet enacted current best practices. Communities across the United States are changing that, and Mike Fry, no-kill learning educator and activist, tells all.
Today's show is going to be pretty interesting because we're going to be surrounded by animals. So if you hear barking or roughhousing, it sounds like there's a couple of dogs playing around. That you are hearing this exactly correct. Today's show is about the no-kill movement for our pets. You may or may not know that many pets, once entered into an animal shelter, are destroyed simply because the shelter has not enacted current best practices. But communities across the United States are changing that, and we're seeing unprecedented life-saving in our nation's shelters. Mike Fry is an animal advocate who teaches animal shelters how to end the killing of healthy or treatable pets. He's worked in the animal welfare field for more than 20 years and hosts a national no-kill day to promote adoption in animal shelters across the USA. Hi, Mike.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yay! Before we go any further, in my introduction, I said that you host a National No-Kill Day.
Yes.
To promote adoption in animal shelters. When is that?
That's June 11 every year, and it's called Just One Day. And what we do in Just One Day is we ask animal shelters who are still destroying pets to make room for others to put down their euthanasia syringes and instead to pick up cameras, video cameras, cell phones. Instead of sending animals out the back door in body bags, we ask them to put them on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and to engage their local news media about this day and end the day with an empty shelter without having to have anybody lose their lives. And we've done it now for about 5 years. And we have typically about almost 2,000 organizations across the United States that participate. And we adopt tens of thousands of animals into homes in a single day. And we literally empty shelters out. It's a ton of fun. You can see the website at justoneday.ws or find us on Facebook throughout the day on June 11th and leading up to the event. You know, the shelters are advertising, marketing, and putting things out. But at the end of the day on June 11th, people are posting videos of animal shelters that are completely empty.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so basically what we did is we started at the end. Let's backpedal now. And listeners, you have to excuse me. I find what Mike Fry has to say totally engaging. And you've been listening to this show long enough, you know, if I'm really engaged, sometimes I forget to ask the questions, okay? So let's take a big step back now and let's find out how did this whole thing start for you? How did you get involved with animal shelters? And what is the no-kill movement? Why do we even need it?
Okay, that's a lot of good questions in that. I got involved because back in the 1970s, my mother founded the first no-kill animal shelter in Minnesota.
Yay, Mom.
And so animal sheltering just kind of, I grew up like with animal sheltering in the periphery. And as I got older, I ultimately moved into the profession and got very fascinated with not just animal shelters, but communities. back in the olden days when the shelter my mom founded was first started, it was great to have a no-kill shelter. So the shelter she started was a no-kill shelter. But, if animal control in that same community is still killing a lot of animals, that animal shelter is only so helpful.
Right.
So the goal of the no-kill movement, which really came out in about 2001, is about making sure that all of the shelters in the community are not killing animals. They make exceptions, of course, for terminally ill or suffering pets, or rare cases if there's a really severely dangerous dog. They tolerate or accept euthanasia of those animals, but it's a tiny little percentage of those that enter animal shelters fit into those categories. So all the rest of them, the goal is throughout the entire community to get them all placed and out of the shelter alive. And there's now...
And that's a reasonable request?
Absolutely. There's now hundreds of no-kill communities in the United States. As of June 1st, 2001, there were 0.
So there's a difference then between a no-kill shelter and a no-kill community. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later on the show, because I know you, and I've heard you talk about some things you've seen in community. And this is a show about global wellness and how it affects us. So we want to talk about that. But I want to talk about some icky stuff first. Let's identify the problem. Okay, so we talked about what a no-kill shelter is. Just one more time, be very clear for our listeners. What is a no-kill shelter?
A no-kill shelter is a facility where every pet that is not terminally ill and not dangerous is placed into a new home.
Okay.
So they do believe in euthanasia. They don't believe in killing. They think there's a difference between euthanizing and killing. You euthanize a terminal and suffering animal, ending the life of a perfectly healthy pet because you don't have a robust adoption program isn't euthanasia. That's killing.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
And so that's what the movement is about. That's what where it's all going. And it's an interesting process, because really what we're looking at is a huge social change movement. Because if you look at animal sheltering and animal control in the United States, it was mostly designed, 200 and some years ago, and it was designed entirely as a rabies control program. So the poundmaster, their entire job was going out, rounding up, and killing animals. That was the job. That was the job description. That was what they were supposed to do. And animal shelters evolved from that model. And many animal shelters still operate that way, which is why they're run by the local sheriff or the local health department. They're not run by people concerned with animal welfare. They're
run by people concerned with human welfare and who have the misconception that we're somehow in danger.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that, that they're serving a public that loves their animals. I mean, they just do.
Right.
In another show, we're going to talk about how the natural spiritual connection that people have with animals, that's undeniable. I mean, the very first images we put in front of our children when they pop out of the womb are cartoons of dogs and cats, because children have a natural attraction and affinity to
Sure.
animals. And so we're a nation of animal lovers. We grow up loving animals. And then to have that practice going on in our nation's shelters is, from my perspective, a symptom of a bigger and broader disease.
Definitely. And listeners, if you doubt it, go check out what it looks like to go into, in a shelter where they destroy living creatures. See how it makes you feel. Mike, I want to ask one more kind of creepy question, and then we should, we're going to transition into something a little more positive. But I want our listeners to understand this is a real issue. I want you to tell our listeners what a puppy mill is and how that affects your concept of adoption and our homeless pets.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. My definition of a puppy mill is a large-scale commercial dog breeder. So there are these, big facilities where Typically, the adult breeding dogs are treated very much as, commodities. They're, they're almost all female, and their entire existence is just cranking out as many puppies as they can. And they're usually, packed into tiny little wire cages or standing and walking on wire their entire lives. And some of the facilities I've been into have had, I think the largest had about 1,200 breeding dogs on the property, cared for by like 3 people. And, the barking and the urine smell and the feces smell is so
overpowering.
It burns your eyes to be in there, and the sound, the decibels, the noise in the metal pole barns where these usually exist is just deafening. And you just imagine what it's like for dogs to, whose set noses are more sensitive than ours by thousands of times, or their hearing 1,000 times more sensitive than ours. What that's like for them. So it's horrendous. How that ties into animal sheltering and the no-kill movement is that, when animal shelters don't do a good job of placing the pets that are in the animal shelters, they actually push people over to buying animals from pet stores and puppy mills.
Sure.
And so, what recent research has proven, in fact, that, animal shelters used to kill animals because they believed there were, quote, too many animals, not enough homes. So with this thing called pet overpopulation.
Yes, we've all heard about pet overpopulation.
Well, it turns out it doesn't actually exist.
What?
It's a fantasy. It's a fallacy.
Oh my God.
So a group of people got together and they did their research, and they talked to important people like the Pet Product Manufacturers Association, who know. They've done, the pet industry is a $41 billion a year industry. The people selling those products know where people are buying their pets, know where they're getting them, know why. And the research is fascinating. It turns out every year in the United States, 24 million Americans bring a new dog or cat into their home every single year. There's only about 8 million dogs or cats that even enter animal shelters. There's plenty of homes for them. So long as you appropriately engage the people in your community to want to adopt them. But what ends up happening oftentimes is animal shelters that are practicing old style sheltering, they're in sheriff's offices and stuff, and they have poor customer service, and they're rude to people, and they're emotionally detached from the animals, and so they provide poor customer service, so nobody wants to go there. And they end up pushing those animal adopters, those potential animal adopters, over to buying from puppy mills and pet shops.
Oh my God! So
does that make sense?
That is a sick relationship. I think that is really not okay.
Right, and so, but what we're finding is in the no-kill movement, when the animal
that would be a bus driving by.
when the animal shelters embrace their community and they get the animals out of the shelter alive, it also closes puppy mills at the same time, because if the animal shelters do a really good job of working in their community and saving the pets and getting people to adopt them, then they're not buying from puppy mills and pet shops.
All right. Okay, so that's clear that there's actually room for a breeder. Mike, some folks want a pure Rottweiler with shits in training. That's out there. So basically what I'm hearing is that there is room for dedicated breeders. I don't know about this puppy mill thing. I kind of want to shoot them all, but maybe a dedicated breeder who loves what they do. There's enough room for them, and our no-kill shelters. Nobody's stepping on anybody's toes.
Yeah, absolutely. When I helped to pass the puppy mill bill in Minnesota, the first time the state of Minnesota wrote legislation to actually regulate those large-scale puppy mills, and some of those small hobby breeders, the Minnesota Purebred Dog Breeders Association, were on board helping to do that.
Okay.
And
so they get it.
You're talking about these small breeders who may, breed 1 or 2 litters a year, and they genetically test them all, and they live in their homes, and they're wonderful people, and they love their breeds, and many of those people are super active in animal rescue too.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Before we move on to a different subject, you had said something, you used the word euthanized a few minutes ago. Does no kill mean no animal is ever euthanized?
No, it means that no animal, they never take the life of a pet that is healthy or that has a treatable medical or behavior issue.
Okay.
So if it's terminal and suffering, then ending its life is humane euthanasia.
Okay.
If you're ending the life of an animal because you haven't implemented the programs to save its life, and it's just convenient to kill it, that's killing, not euthanasia. So that's why the no-kill movement has adopted the label no-kill movement. But a small number of animals still are euthanized humanely because it's in the best interest of those pets.
My dear beloved Thor, my Rottweiler, had a tumor in his shoulder, and they're just, it was either take his whole arm, or, euthanasia was the word that our vet used, and it was a hard decision. But in my heart, I think it was the right decision. I think as humans, there are times where, I think we should be able to participate in that decision. However, just murdering living creatures, I cannot wrap my mind around that.
Well,
I just can't.
And it is interesting to watch, when I go in to evaluate a shelter that has a high kill rate. This is going to sound subjective and there's no measurable science for it, but the people are just, you can see they're not happy. It's a soul-crushing job. And so what happens when a shelter or a community transforms from the culture of killing animals to the culture of saving their lives by engaging in their community and adopting pets, there's this amazing healing that takes place, not just at the shelter, not just with the animals, but with the staff and the volunteers and the board and all the people who support the shelter and all the rescue organizations that support the shelter.
Well, what is that transformation? Because actually that was going to be my next question is, I know you've had experience going not just into shelters, but into communities where the whole community gets on board in a small town, okay? And you were talking to me about this recently. This show is about wellness, but it's about global wellness. Anything that we can do to improve our mindset or our physical health, we care. So I've been listening to you talk about a particular community here in the United States. Give us some examples. What have you seen? First of all, what were they like when you got there and they were killing and everybody, who took that job had to consent to being a part of that killing? Okay? Then they made some changes. What did you see?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, when you've got this culture of killing, people are not happy. All of the people surrounding the shelter are not happy. So, prior to the communities going no-kill, you'll see, letters to the editor continually being written, complaints going to elected officials, people are upset and crying and about this animal being killed, that animal being killed. Oftentimes the volunteers there have emotional attachments to that. And so there's this constant sickness in the space,
Well, yeah, I don't think that we were actually born to be murderers. All right, I'll just say it.
Right.
Just say the word.
Yeah. And when you take that off the table and you put people in the shelter who value those animals' lives, who honor the core mores and ideals that we hold about life in our society, then everything changes. The volunteers are happier. Their turnover of staff, dwindles. People at the shelter are smiling and high-fiving each other and ringing bells as animals are going out the door in adoptions. And, all the complaints and the letters to the editor go away. And you end up with a healthy system where the rescue groups feel like they can swoop in and support the community. And so all of that sickness just goes away.
And think about it. Who goes to get, what nice young person, late teens, early 20s, goes to work in the animal shelter thinking that it's all about the murder. Yay! Nobody does that,
Right. And watching people survive that process.
Yeah.
You know, watching them go from, because that exact phenomenon does happen. People get those jobs, don't know what's happening, and they go in eager. And, you know, the fact of the matter is the suicide rate in the animal welfare field is high because they're dealing with that all the time. And the emotional wounds and scars from that behavior are horrible and deep.
They're horrible. So, okay. So what can we do to support the no-kill movement? And actually, I'm going to ask that you include slowly a website or two, but just give us a few minutes because we're going to wrap up now. And audience, I know you want to hear more. Come back in 2 weeks, or I'm going to do a part 2 interview with Mike Fry because we've barely touched the surface here. We just talked about the no-kill movement. There's more to talk about. But Mike, just give us a couple of minutes. Tell us, what can people do to support the movement? That's huge. And where can we go to learn more?
I would go to thenokillnation.org. They've got a great website, strong Facebook presence, and you can donate to them. They're all volunteer.
Okay.
And they're actively working to educate advocates in their community, because what typically has to happen is the public in a community that's run by a government municipal shelter, you know, that shelter, the municipality's natural instinct is to not change anything. So, you know, they'll, you know, keep that police or sheriff controlled shelter that's got that killing mindset going until the noise in the community gets large enough to change it. So No Kill Nation helps energize advocates in their community to force that change with the leadership at the shelters.
So if somebody had a spicy personality and they decided, hey, I really, really care about this. Maybe some of our youth out there, by the way, those of you young people who are listening, I think what Mike is saying is, if you want to get involved, there's support for you. You don't have to just get out there on your own. You've got support from a fairly powerful group here.
Well, right, and it's really nice because it was, for me, watching the no-kill movement grow to the place where it is now has been really nice, because when I started, you know, there were like a handful of voices, like, you know, in the nation, maybe 5 or 6 of us that were even talking about that this might be possible. Now we know it's not only possible, it's happening in communities all over the United States. So the excuses for not changing are dropping more and more quickly, and so the momentum is building. You know, it used to be that they would say it can't be done, it's impossible. And now, with it happening in shelters and communities in the North, in the South, red states, blue states, you know, in every kind of demographic you can imagine, you can't say it's not possible anymore.
No, you can't. All right, let's be really clear with this one. You said, is it the No Kill Nation?
.org.
.org. Any other website we need to know about?
Yeah, check out their Facebook page. You can also check out my website at nokilllearning.com.
nokilllearning.com. Listeners, we're going to have links to both of those websites on our webpage. But you've heard it here. Mike, thank you.
My pleasure.
So much. All right, guys, come on back next week where you'll hear Master Chia. Bye.
And now, some final thoughts with Master Mantak Chia.
In the Taoism, we said there are animals inside us. And in a higher practice, we always have to take care of the inner, we have inner child, inner animal. Okay, the inner child, so the inner animal, like the heart, is represented by affection. And in the liver, it represents as a green dragon. So it's different from the red dragons. Okay, green dragons, we say are kindness and generosity and helping. And in the spleen, we have the phoenix. Phoenix, we say wise, and it's come out from the ashes and give us the E, we call the intention. So that's why, like some people, it seems like they go into a very difficult path and go into the death and it rises from the death. Because the phoenix, they always burn their feather in the fall season, and they bury themselves in the ground, and they grow all the new feather and they come up. So they think that they burn themselves to death and they rises again more beautiful. Okay, and we also have the kidney. They're representing by deer, a soft, gentle, calm, and peace, and very friendly. Okay, and so the heart, lungs. The lungs is always representing by the white tiger. Okay, so in the tiger is very rare, and the tiger, they fear nothing. They have a lot of courage, and so we always standing from courage, and standing from righteous, and standing from sincerity. Okay, tiger, they're very, very simple. They need food, they kill, that's it. And they don't bother other people when they're not hungry. So they are it's actually gentle, and gentle also can be. When you have courage, you feel calm and peace. Yeah. So that is the inner animals.
Beautiful.
So now when we started to know that all this animal is within us, and when we started to love ourselves, we also started to love our own animals, and we started to also love the outside animal, because they are relationship, they're connecting together.
For thousands of years, Chinese and American cultures have had deep relationships with animals and nature. A great way to learn more about the connection between humans and animals is through storytelling. The Protection Animals record album is one we love, and a combination of spoken word and contemporary music. Each song contains pieces of ancient Chinese secrets and just a touch of history. You can find this album on serenastone.com under Lessons and More. Then click on Music.
We know the unconditional love and companionship of a pet is medicine for so many of us, and the No Kill Nation is here to help us keep the love of pets and animals available to our families. Please show your support by visiting thenokillnation.org. Again, that's thenokillnation.org. If you are involved with a shelter or know of one that needs to change its practices, please go to nokilllearning.net and let them know. Again, that's nokilllearning.net. Thank you for joining us on another Empowerment Through Knowledge adventure. Want to learn more? Find Master Chia at mantakchia.com. That's mantakchia.com. Find advanced learning materials, books, and more at serenastone.com. That's SarinASTONE.com. Thanks for listening, and if you like what you heard, please subscribe today. This podcast was produced by J.C. Warfield Productions in conjunction with the Echo Chamber Studio, Minneapolis, Minnesota.